All right, my friends, so we have our picture here. We are ready to color this in today. Now, I'm going to give you a choice with your materials that you're using today to color in your warm and cool colored sections. If you have paint at home, you're welcome to paint it in, though I would make sure it is a watercolor paint. Do not use like a thick Tipra paint, the kind that kind of squeezes out of a bottle. There's like you can use like a watercolor paint, something like this, where you just brush the surface with water to make it work, because a thick paint is going to cover up all of our patterns that we did, and you're not going to be able to see those. So do not use like a tempera or an acrylic paint for this. If you have a watercolor paint, if you have crayons or colored pencils, that's a great way to do it. If you have marker, you're welcome to do it that way. Or I am also going to show you guys another way today that uses marker, a paintbrush, and water to turn your marker ink into paint and spread it around your paper. So I'm going to go in and start. I'm going to do my first part. I'm just going to do it in, actually I'm not going to do it in crayon. I'm going to do it in Twistable colored pencil. And then I'll also show you guys the technique. So last week I planned out how my colors are going to go. So I have a cool sky, warm mountains, cool hills, and then my house is going to be warm colors. So even though I'm going to do some paint, I want to color in my house with the Twistables because it's such a small detail. It's going to be really hard for me to fit the paint and make the paint go nice and neat inside those small areas. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to color in, and you see I'm coloring in really super solid. I'm not doing a quick scribble and leaving a bunch of peekaboos or white spaces showing through. I don't really want to see hardly any white space when you're done with this. If you have one or two little things like a cloud or a little patch of snow on something that you left white, that's fine. But most of your stuff should be completely colored in. I should not see a whole bunch of white when you are done with this. So make sure you're really filling in all of your spaces as you're going through and coloring these in. Here's my yellow. So I'm coloring in my house. And like I said, you can do your own thing with colored pencils. You can do it with crayon. If you have a watercolored paint, that's fine. Or if you have markers, a paintbrush, and water, I'm going to show you one other way that you could also paint in. So I have my warm house. I'm also going to have my mountains warm. So I'll show you guys, like I said, I'm going to do some like this. I need to test this color, make sure it's the color I think it is. Yep. So I'm going to go in and start coloring in. And I'm just going through and coloring the whole thing. The solid color. I'm not trying to color in my patterns. My patterns are just kind of a cool detail that are going to show through mine. So that's why those certain types of paints aren't good, because we don't want them to cover up our pattern. We still want to be able to see our pattern through our color. So we're going through and coloring in. All right. So if you want to do yours with marker, water, and a paintbrush, the way you're going to do that is you will take whatever color of marker you are going to choose and you were going to use for that. So for this mountain, I'm going to do kind of this burgundy, since I said, or kind of a magenta-y color, since my mountains are warm colors. So red, oranges, yellows, pinks. And I am going to first, I'll kind of zoom in so you guys can really see. I am going to go through this and I am going to take my marker and just inside where my Sharpie line is here, I'm going to paint. Now, if you traced out your whole picture right here and you did this, but you did this using a black marker, not a Sharpie, but just a regular marker, you might have some problems if you put water on it, that your black marker might kind of move or spread around. So what I would do if you're not sure if you used a permanent marker or not, if you traced, remember you didn't have to trace, that was an option, but if you did, you might want to just try it in like a small little area of the corner first to see if it's going to mess up your black patterns or marker if you put water on top of them. So I'm going through here and I'm just going all around the edge of my shape that I want colored in this color. So I'm going to go all around the edge of that shape so that it's kind of outlined in a way in the color I want my mountain to be. then once I do this nice thick line of color around it, because guys, if you make like a teeny tiny little skinny line that's like the same as a pencil line right along the edge, that color's not going to go anywhere. You won't have enough. Then I would take a paintbrush, just a little one. We don't need a really big one. And water, just regular water, so just clear water out of the sink. I'm going to get my paintbrush wet. I would then put water right on top of the marker. And when I do, it's going to start letting my marker ink move around the paper. So I'm putting water on where the marker I drew on was first. And then once that gets wet, I'm able to move it around. This is why though, guys, if you use a black marker to trace your patterns and that gets wet and it's going to move around too, you want to be really careful. Like I said, you may want to test it in a little space first. And if it does that, then I would just use crayon or colored pencil, or you can just use other markers to color the rest in. I wouldn't put water on it because that could mess you up, and I don't want that to happen for you. So you can go through like that, and you can even, like I am, if you want to do some in kind of the paint look, if you want to do some in the Twistable, and this almost looks kind of brown on the camera. It is like a purpley red color. I don't know why it turned out so brown there. So you can do it that way as well, but we are filling in this whole thing. So each one of our little pieces should be a slightly different color, however you're doing it. I don't want to see like your whole sky, even though it has all these really cool stripes and sections to it, all colored in one plain color. You want to do, maybe you do a pattern and you know, if my sky, I'm going to do a yellow sun or an orange sun, but I'm going to do the stripes differently on there. So for that, I'm actually going to flip mine upside down just so I don't get wet from that. And if I'm going to do this with the marker paint, I would just go through outline along the sides. And then that same, I don't have to change my water, anything else. I'm just coming with the same paintbrush and then get my marker wet on the sides and then pull it to the middle. So I'm getting it wet and then bringing it to the middle of my paper once I do that. So once it kind of gets wet, and filling in that whole section until I don't see any white spaces left. Then I could go through and maybe my next space I'm going to have red or yellow, and I could do every other one and keep filling this in. So you guys are filling in this whole picture today. Do your best to really get it finished. Get as much color as you can on here. Next time, we're going to take a little bit, you'll have a little bit of time if you still need to finish any little other parts to it. And then from there on, we are going to do a little early finisher and start talking about what our next project is going to be. So like I said, you guys have the choice today in materials. You can use crayon colored pencil, you can use marker, you can use water-based paints, or you can use marker, a paintbrush, and water and turn your marker into paint itself. So you guys have fun, get this as close to finished as you can, and I will see y'all next week. And guys, I just realized I made a mistake. I said I was going to do my sky in cool colors, and then I started using my orange and yellow warm colors on here. That's okay. I made a mistake. I could keep doing it warm colors if I wanted. It doesn't have to be the exact thing that you planned out last week if you had time to do it. But I'm going to kind of do a mixture of warm and cool still, just to make those center colors kind of stand out a little more. But you guys keep going. Like I said, if you do that like I do, that's all right. Just keep working with it. Keep going. As long as your paper is super, super colorful, I will be happy with the results. So I'm going to keep working on this. You guys keep working on yours.